Hello again. It's Friday. Welcome back to the show. This is Back to School, your college football prediction show featuring the great Scots. I'm half that combination. I'm Scott Steen, lead handicapper at winnersandwhiners.com.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, senior handicapper over winnersandwhiners.com.
And together, we do it every Friday. Give you our best three picks, and then we do a little bet the farm action. So, good to be here. Scott, we were talking right before the show. Why can't we have a new intro? You know, I figured you would know how to do it since you're like 25. I thought every 25-year-old knew how to do that stuff. You know, the guy that built our intro is like, I don't know how old Jim is, and he's certainly in his 70s.
It's good for him.
Yeah, it is. But now it still says back to the window. It should say back to school.
I'm sure that guy is still 25 at heart.
Aren't we all, dude? That's the dirty little secret about getting older. Your brain, you still pretty much picture yourself in your mid-20s, early 30s. So, yeah. It's pretty much the way it is. So, hey, it's nice to be here. We're looking forward to it. I know you didn't like last week's card, Scott.
Well, that was before I went 0-3.
And you proved it by going. You proved how much you hated it by going 0-3. You had the over in the Ohio-Kent State game. You had Michigan team total under 26.
That was so painful. That was so painful.
Hey, why don't you just stop him after 2 or 3 yards? Oh, no, let's just let him run to the house.
Any first down, I win. And he takes it to the crib.
Not any first down.
That is technically true because technically touchdowns do count. I also didn't realize the Kent State stuff, by the way, because I almost had an overtime draw there. I had first and goal at the 5 for Ohio. Score a touchdown, kick the extra point, you go to overtime, field goal wins. I didn't realize the actual yards that each team had in that game. So just for reference, there were 48 points in regulation for that Kent State game. They combined for 1,186 yards. Kent State had 736 yards of offense and scored a whopping 24 in regulation.
Not exactly what you'd call the most efficient offense.
I didn't even realize that until like yesterday. I didn't realize they had 730-something yards. That made me even more mad. But then the West Virginia stuff was just worthy playing. I didn't expect them to, and that game was over quickly.
Very good.
It wasn't a good day. I acknowledge it.
No, it was not. And I, on the other hand, had a very good day. Picked a good time to go 3-0 as I had the James Madison Dukes. It was the Dukes. Against Texas State. Texas State, I told you how bad they were, and they were bad. James Madison.
That's a good team, though, James Madison. That's a good team.
Undefeated, baby. Wake Forest, I had them +6. They ended up winning the game outright over Florida State. And one of my other go-tos that I'm really disappointed they're not playing this weekend, it's the over in the Charlotte game, as it went well over the total in their game against UTEP. We had over 55, and that got there by double digits. So, at the end of week 5, you sit 9-6. I have overtaken my rightful position as the leader at 10-5. Our farm plays are 3-1, and our one consensus that we had is 1-0.
Yeah, the farm didn't work out last week.
I guess we need to talk about that farm. Yeah, we rode that we rode that horse, and the fucking horse died on us, and we didn't notice. It was Presbyterian Morehead State over. And we, I would say, underestimated how terrible the offenses were. We know the defenses were awful, but the offenses were just dreadful.
Let's put it this way. If you lightning bet the under, you made a fortune.
Yeah.
So there you go. Can you lightning bet totals? Or that was only for sides back in the day?
Yeah, it was just for sides.
That's what I figured. Because totals, I mean, that's a lot more volatile. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Yeah, very good. All right. So that's
the joke. The joke only applied for lightning bets. So I tried.
That's the breakdown of last week. But at the end of the day, Scott, we're still doing very well. You're hitting 60%. I'm at 67.5%. Our farm plays at 75%. Our consensus is 100%. Mm-hmm. So you find me another college show that's as good as this one has been so far. Find it right now. Go get it. Can't do it.
I can't even think of one.
All right. So let's talk about this week's action in a segment we call Loser's Walk. Walk it, baby.
Well, first of all, just to go on record, I do like this card more than the last week. It's a pretty low bar, but I like this card more. Starting off with
1 and 2 incoming.
Yeah. 1 and 2 still an improvement, technically. But going through the first matchup, it's going to be in the Mountain West between Air Force and Utah State, I'm going to go with Air Force -10 at -120 on Fox Bet. At the end of the day, Utah State is a train wreck, lost each of its last 4 games by at least 10 points. I know they were randomly competitive against BYU last week, still lost by double digits. They had a backup quarterback and no guarantee Bonner's going to play. Air Force, though, does what Air Force does, which is run the ball and really well, because Air Force is averaging 328.3 rushing yards per game against FBS opponents, which is number 1 in the nation. Utah State, not good against the run, allowing 186.5 rushing yards per game against FBS opponents, which ranks 99th in the nation. And Air Force, they say a good ground game travels, and it has for the spread in favor of Air Force. Air Force is 6-1 ATS in its last 7 road games. But mostly comes down to the fact that Air Force wants to run the ball very well. They want to run the ball. They do it very well. And Utah State cannot stop the run. Give me Air Force -10. I think they'll end up scoring on almost every possession. Give me Air Force win by probably 13 plus.
They always talk about how it diminishes your ability when you go from sea level to the mountains, but they never talk about when you go from the mountains to sea level. So do you think the guys from Air Force have a little extra burst of energy? They have extra oxygen in their system. Are they a little more ready to go in the fourth quarter than their opponents? You think that's a thing?
I think you can make that case. I think that at the end of the day, you're looking at Utah State also getting extra prep time because their game against BYU was a Thursday game last week, I think.
Yeah.
So maybe that kind of balances out because they have more time to prep. But at the end of the day, I'm just looking at Utah State. This team's not very good. Even the backup quarterback, who was fun to watch against BYU, he wasn't very talented. He kind of just ran around looking like a mini Flutie. But I don't think this Utah State team is worth a damn. Air Force, those games against Navy are always close. I'm not going to overreact to how close the game was. I just think they run it down their throats.
All right, very good. So, Scott, my first pick is going to be directly flying in the face of what you did last week. I'm also going to take Ohio on an over, except the team that they're playing is going to be much worse than Kent State. So this should all go well, as the total is actually a little higher, right? What was it last week for you?
Last week, I believe, was trying to remember what it was. It was either 65. I was going to say, yeah.
We're going to drop a touchdown out of that. Here's the deal. Both of these defenses are absolute trash. Akron gives up 42 points per game. Ohio not far behind, 38 points per game. Akron put up 28 last week against Bowling Green as an 8-point dog. It's a similar spot here against Ohio. I expect to see a similar number out of them, somewhere in the 27-28 range. And I think that gives us plenty of room for this Ohio team that's fairly dynamic on offense to take care of business. I'm thinking this one's somewhere in the neighborhood of perhaps 40-24, 40-27, something like that. I think we should go well over the total of 59.
I can't argue with it because even though my bet went under last week, Kent State once again had 736 yards against this defense.
Can't be said enough.
So I can't really say no. Akron actually moved the ball, scored 28 against Bowling Green last week?
Right.
And Irons is, he's okay for Akron standards at quarterback, so I think he can move the ball. But you mentioned a MAC total with an over. I'm going to mention another MAC total with an over. It's going to be Buffalo and Bowling Green, and I'm going to take the over 54.5 at -110 on Bet Online. A couple reasons why I like this matchup. First reason, kind of the same thing that you mentioned. Both teams not very good at defense. Bowling Green is allowing 511.5 yards per game against FBS opponents, which is the 5th most in the country. Buffalo allowing 409, which ranks 82nd. So neither team can stop really anybody. Bowling Green's giving up 339.3 passing yards per game against FBS opponents, which is the 2nd most in the country. And Buffalo can't stop the run. Buffalo's allowing 186.8 rushing yards per game, which ranks 100th. But each of Bowling Green's first 5 games this season have had at least 59 points. As I just said, they allowed 28 points to Akron last week. 3 of Buffalo's last 4 games have had at least 64 points. They gave up 30 plus to Holy Cross for reference. Each of the last 5 meetings have had at least 56 points. And last year's meeting, do you remember how many points were in that game?
I do not.
Bowling Green scored 56 points. Do you want to guess how many first downs they had?
32.
11.
Oh, shit.
They had 11 first downs and scored 56 points.
That's impressive.
They won 56-44. There were 110 points in last year's meeting.
That's 100.
So, sorry, there were 100 points. Sorry. Yeah, my bad. There was 100 points. I was trying to remember if it was actually 60-something. I think it was 50-something. The point is that it was 100 points. Now the total's 54.5. The weather's fine. I checked it. But Buffalo should score a lot of points because Bowling Green can't stop anybody. We saw them score 50 against Eastern Michigan a couple weeks ago. I think Buffalo could score 50. Bowling Green might score 40. Each team might score 30. 54.5 is way too low for two defenses that aren't worth a damn. Give me the over. Do you know why the total's so low? Because I don't get it.
I think it's an okie doke. I think it's an okie doke, buddy.
I think it might be, but
Buffalo.
even with it,
I'm not convinced Buffalo has the quality offense that they've had in years past.
That's true, but I watched them last week. They weren't great against Miami, Ohio, but Miami, Ohio is arguably the best defense in the conference, and they can't throw. McDonald, though, for Bowling Green has like 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's randomly been incredible.
Yep.
I just think that this total's too low for two really bad defenses. And as I said, each of the last 5 meetings gone over. So I'll go with the over.
Okay. My second play is going to be. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. That's weird.
I didn't move it.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I rolled down too far. It's the Dukes again. The Dukes. James Madison undefeated this season, minus 11 against Arkansas State. I talk about this team every week, Scott. Under the radar, they are number 1 total defense in all of college football, 15th in scoring defense. They are 8th in sacks. Why does that matter? Well, because if you know Arkansas State, you know the Red Wolves likes to throw the ball a lot. That's going to be a problem when they drop back. I think James Madison is going to have plenty for them. They are going to absolutely eliminate the run game, turn the Red Wolves even more one-dimensional than they are. And for the Red Wolves on defense, they are not good at stopping the run, and that is going to be a problem against this Dukes team who wants to run first and foremost. They bring in Colorado State transfer Todd Sendeo, which, my God, can you imagine how good he feels about getting the hell out of Fort Collins there, man? Leaving that trash Colorado State team. By the way, you don't know how bad Colorado State is. Make sure if you're watching this on Friday, you watch that game tonight. That's a dreadful.
Then in Nevada's the toilet bowl for the evening.
Man, I'm telling you. Sendeo's a great dual threat quarterback and throwing the ball much better than he threw it in Colorado State. They've signed an offense that fits his skill set, 11 TDs, just one interception.
Good weapons, too.
He's the leading rusher on the team. He averages 6.3 yards per carry. This is a Arkansas State team that is just not good. I think James Madison has plenty for him and should end up winning this one by at least 2 touchdowns. Give me the Dukes.
This was one of the plays that was kind of my honorable mention, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at Arkansas State's defense, I figured Madison should score 35-plus points in this game. So, yeah, I like
Agreed.
that play as well. But I'm going to go to an ACC matchup taking place at night between a team that you actually faded last week. You faded Florida State. I'm going to fade them this week. I'm going to go with NC State -3 at -110 on DraftKings. I have no idea why this line is only 3. I get the fact that NC State should have probably lost to East Carolina. They lost to Clemson last week. Both games were on the road. At home, they've been very good. To go through the numbers, NC State has won each of its first 3 home games by at least 13 points. We saw Texas Tech beat Texas, so Texas Tech's not an awful team. They beat Tech by 13, so they have played one decent opponent, and they won by double digits. Both teams, I said before, lost last week. NC State lost on the road to Clemson by 10. I think we'd agree, no shame in that. Clemson's the best team in the conference.
Especially at home, sure.
Florida State, at home, got buried by Wake. And yes, I know they lost by 10. They were getting killed the entire game and scored a quote-unquote garbage time touchdown to make it close at the end. They really were getting killed the entire game.
Yeah, it wasn't until the defense softened up and kept everything in front of them that
Wake was just draining clock in the
Florida State was able to do anything at all on offense. So,
but Florida State got outplayed throughout. The red zone offense was awful. Bunch of penalties, missed field goals. It was really just an awful showing by Norvell. And NC State really good against the run. The Wolfpack are allowing just 109 rushing yards per game against FBS competition, which ranks 24th in the nation. Florida State, even though Travis is a pretty good quarterback, he's still inaccurate. The point is Florida State loves to run the ball because they have a couple of good running backs. I think NC State up front will do a good job of limiting those backs from getting loose. And if you want to go through some trends, Florida State historically has been awful against NC State. The Seminoles are 1-9-1 in the last 11 meetings in NC State, and the Seminoles are 3-17-1 ATS in the last 21 meetings. NC State at night, at home, following a loss to Clemson. I don't trust Florida State on the road. I'm going to go with NC State -3.
Yeah, I think that's very solid. Those are two very actionable trends right there. It's one of those things you come across as a handicapper, and you're like, well, if I don't play this, I couldn't look my clients in the eye. So
3-17-3.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It is. It is. You got to play that. So, all right, Scott, my final pick is going to be from a game there in the Sun Belt. Hey, remember last couple of years, Coastal Carolina's been a good team. Grayson McCall is quarterback. They've been nationally ranked. A lot of publicity about them. Well, they're not ranked this year, a little bit down. But Scott, any idea what their record is this season?
They're still undefeated.
They are still undefeated. Coastal Carolina is still 5-0, but they are truly the definition of under the radar as everybody falls in love with this year's Coastal Carolina and the KU Jayhawks. However, this is still a very good team. They're going up against a very bad team in the University of Louisiana at Monroe, laying just 13 on the road. Monroe, traditionally a very bad football team, and they are once again this year. They are coming off a 17-point loss to the aforementioned, also terrible Arkansas State. Arkansas State, as we talked about, they like to throw the ball. That's how they beat Monroe. Hey, Coastal Carolina likes to run the football, but they still got a young fellow by the name of Grayson McCall who can spin the ball just a little bit too. I think it's going to be a long day for Monroe. Give me Coastal Carolina the chance -13.
And Coastal could also get after the passer. So I do think that they'll create problems for UL Monroe's passing game. But I don't have any arguments with that. Coastal, we know, is the more talented team by far. The only issue is they've been kind of surviving instead of actually thriving. A lot of their games are really close. But Coastal's a much better team. So based on talent alone, they should win by 2+ touchdowns.
That's what I'm figuring. All right, very good. Well, my friend, that is our 3 picks. There's only one thing left to do, and that's to get to it. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
You psyched?
I am psyched. It can't be worse than last week.
It cannot. All right, you guys, everybody, you know the drill. It's Friday. Put on your Friday overalls. Get your straw hat out. Climb aboard that John Deere. Get your keys in. Put them in the ignition and fire that bad boy up. Because, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is time. Oh my God, dude, I'm so bad at this. I'm so out of practice. All right, there you go. You ready? It's time to bet the farm. All right, very good. Afternoon, ma'am. Good to see you. Heading on down to the general store later, Scott. So that'll be you look like Pharrell.
I thought you were going to say a park ranger.
No,
I look like an extra from what the hell is it? From Super Troopers.
What are you talking about now?
You mean Shenanigans? Yeah.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
I love that movie.
All right. Well, Scott, we've been playing happy banjo music for 3 straight weeks. Got to stop. How'd the farm do last week?
Unfortunately, the banjo player got tired and he's on strike. So we're going to work something out. He'll be back next week, hopefully.
Missed it by that much. Morehead State Presbyterian over 70. When did you know we were beat, Scott? At what point in the first quarter did you know we weren't going to win?
I can't even answer the first quarter because I, truth be told, forgot what time the game was. And I checked and it was like 10-0 at half. And I'm like, oh, this is not fun.
This is not fun. Yeah, I was watching that all the way through. I think with about 8-9 minutes left in the first quarter, I think we were fucked. So
were they even driving, or was it just awful from start to finish?
No, it was just awful from start to finish.
Just awful? Okay.
Right. Yeah, just dreadful. All right. Well, buddy, we got one cooked up for today. This was my bronze medal contender, and I threw it out there, and you fell in love with it or said, yeah, we can go with that. Who did it last week? You remember?
I'll let you do it if you want to, or I could. You know what? I'll do it. Screw it. I think you did it last week. Doesn't matter. Who cares? All right. So for the farm, we're going to go to a matchup between 2 teams that, well, aren't very good, but there's value to be had. We're going to go with UTEP plus the 3 at -115 on Bet Online as they take on Louisiana Tech. Mostly a fade of Louisiana Tech, but UTEP has quietly been okay the last couple of weeks. They ended up beating Boise State. Nice win there. I know Boise had Bachmeier, but still, nice win as an underdog. What were they getting? Like 15 in that game, 14 in that game. They're getting a bunch of points.
Yeah, it was solid. They were I've actually got it right here. They were catching 16.5.
16.5, they won outright. Nice win there. And then last week, I know you had the over
By
in the game.
17, by the way.
Yeah, they won by 17. They crushed them. And then last week, I know you had the over in the game, but they beat Charlotte. That was a nice win too. So they've won 2 straight by at least 6 points, which is definitely a good sign. Louisiana Tech, though, has 1 win. It's against an FCS school. Against FBS schools, not very good. They're 0-3. Each loss has been by at least 24 points. And you look at who Louisiana Tech has played, couple of decent teams, nothing insanely great, but they lost to South Alabama, for example, by 24. Played Clemson, that makes sense. They ended up losing by 28. Played Missouri, lost by 28 as well. So Louisiana Tech, we knew was going to be bad going into the season. They've allowed at least 38 points in each of those games against FBS competition. We think UTEP should be able to move the ball. And going through some trends, UTEP has actually been very good when traveling to Louisiana Tech. The Miners are 5-1 ATS in the last 6 road games against Louisiana Tech. It's mostly a fade of the Bulldogs. We don't think Louisiana Tech's worth a damn. UTEP's actually playing some decent football lately. We think that potentially the wrong team's favored, but we cannot lay 3 with Louisiana Tech here. I think that's a crazy line.
Not a chance. You want to take a spin on the money line, you can certainly do that as well. That ain't a bad play. And Scott, I think the problem is going to be for this Louisiana Tech team is their inability to stop the rush. They played Missouri, gave up 323 yards to the Tigers, 6.5 yards per carry. Gave up 280 to Clemson, 7.2 yards per carry. And even South Alabama, who does not have a dynamic offense, they gave up 5 yards a carry to them. So this is a UTEP team that first and foremost wants to run the football.
Even the quarterback could run.
What's that?
Even the quarterback could run.
Even the quarterback can run, and that's exactly what they're going to do. I think this is a bad matchup for the Bulldogs in spite of the fact that they're at home. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about the rushing versus there a little bit. So, yeah, that's going to be it. That's our farm play. We got the UTEP Miners +3. If you wanted to play the money line, +125. That's decent value because you're laying 115. You're getting 40 cents of value there to eschew you 3 points. I don't hate that either. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Okay. All right. Very good. So just a quick recap. Scott, what do you got for this week?
So for my picks, I have Air Force -10 against Utah State at -120. I have Buffalo Bowling Green over 54.5 at -110 on Bet Online. And I have NC State in the night game, -3 against Florida State at home at -110 on DraftKings.
All right, very good. And I'm riding that MAC over, Akron, Ohio, over 59. Going back to the Dukes. It was the Dukes. Check James Madison, -11 against Arkansas State, Red Wolves. And Coastal Carolina behind Grayson McCall, -13 over Louisiana Monroe. As far as the farm play goes, we've both agreed that UTEP is undervalued against
Louisiana Tech.
Louisiana Tech. Thank you very much, dude. Sorry. Getting the 3 points, we think that's a gift. Here you go. Here's a little farm gift for you. So take that and enjoy it. Scott, any final thoughts?
Every time you say Dukes, I keep thinking Elliott. That's my final thought.
The what? The Elliott.
I keep thinking of E.T. That you do the same voice for it was the Dukes for Elliott.
I have a very limited. Yeah, I have a very limited number of.
That's voices. My final thought. I said the same thing last week. That's just what I think of every time you say that.
All right, solid. I'll have to work on my.
Just rewatch. Whenever you rewatch the show, just rewatch that part, like the final 5 minutes, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You're gonna laugh hysterically on the rewatch. That's all I'm saying. All
right, very good. All right, guys, thanks for joining us as always. Of course, I would implore you to please like and subscribe, like our video. Give us a comment. Let us know what your best college plays are this week. We want to hear from you. Put those plays in there, man. Somebody gives us a good little underdog or something, maybe we can give you the shout out next week. You don't know. So
do you have an underdog in your mind?
What's that?
Any random underdog that pop into your head, like touchdown or greater?
Any random underdogs?
I tend to be a favored better. I was kind of drawn to mostly favorites this week, but I was curious if there were any that you actually
I don't hate North Carolina over Miami.
Okay.
I think that's playable. Middle Tennessee State could be in play against UAB.
Just wondering because you mentioned the underdog stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of looking around here.
I was looking at Stanford in the late night special, which scares the crap out of people because Stanford's atrocious. But Oregon State laying roughly 7.5 on the road with potentially a backup quarterback. No one has a neck issue. He might not play.
Yeah.
And I think there might be value on Stanford there. So if you want a long shot, see what happens. I don't mind Stanford. The 11 p.m. kickoff underdog. Why not?
You know, we often talk about Hawaii and how bad they are wanting to fade Hawaii. They're playing San Diego State this week.
We hate that team too.
Huh?
We hate that team too.
Yeah, exactly. We hate that team too. If you ever wondered what San Diego State, they've always had no offense and a great defense. If you ever wondered what it would look like if they didn't have a defense either, well, congratulations, you finally fucking got your wish, as this team is just dreadful on both sides of the ball. Defense may be coming around a little bit, but laying over three touchdowns with San Diego State, I can't fucking do it. They'll probably still cover, but
they probably will, but I can't do it.
No, I can't. So,
any thoughts on that UConn?
I looked at Virginia Tech. But I think that defense they put up over the first few weeks of the season is probably fool's gold.
They made North Carolina's defense look good.
Yeah, I know. That's a problem. That is the problem. So
the fun game, by the way, if you want an absolute tank bowl or a garbage bowl, UConn FIU.
Yeah.
UConn laying 5 off the nice win against Fresno.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger upsets that kind of flew under the radar as well.
Well, Hainer was out, but the point is you should still beat UConn anyway. That doesn't really matter.
FIU is dreadful.
It beat New Mexico State by double digits, and New Mexico State beat Hawaii by double digits, which tells you how bad Hawaii is. So there you go.
Crazy. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll be back here next Friday to do it, as Scott and I will once again take you on that journey and head where, Scott? Back to school and the window. Back to school and the window. Very good. Hey, you guys take care. Have a great week. Let's go win some money. All right. We'll see you next Friday. No, not that. Here, how about this one? Bye.